What's wrong with you? What's wrong with you? And I'm finna call the police. You done lost your mind. It's on record. Hit me. Hit me and I'm gonna knock your old stuff out. Hit me. Hit me. Hit me. No, he just came up. You got me messed up. Let me get his tag number. You going to jail. You going to jail. You going to jail. You going to jail. You're going to jail. He just came up to my car. Josh, he literally just came up to my car and hit me while I'm in my... Look at your camera. Look at your camera. Look at your camera. You got me messed up. You got me messed up. Bob, he is racist. You got me messed up.
You want to know what I'm most excited about this summer? No more high. Waisted bikinis.
All right, peace and blessings, ladies and gentlemen. All praises to the Most High. This incident just happened yesterday in Aiken, South Carolina, where our beautiful sister right here, Jasmine Thomas, who is a CNA.
She's so beautiful, like she didn't knock his ass out.
That she's been working with for years was attacked by this guy, 79-year-old John Russell, who actually followed her through the neighborhood. And then the incident that you just saw in the video. And now you can go back and rewind that video. But Russell followed her, and as she attempted to get out of the car.
That's on Taylor House Publishing. Sister was on her way to work, a CNA, and an elderly white man done followed her, done assaulted her.
Anybody explain this?
She didn't hit him.
Those who say racism.
She was very upset. She would have if he kept coming after her.
This lady was coming to work, trying to feed her kids, and she was assaulted just by going to the neighborhood that she normally.
Well, you know, we ain't turned that way, but it's good to see y'all. We probably gonna watch that on YouTube. I'm gonna try to set it up so we can watch that on YouTube and stuff. Cause we do need to know what they doing out here. Ain't nothing changed. Maybe not around us in our vicinity and stuff, but our people that's out there, our people. How they're treating our people out there is what we need to know. We need to know these things. Oh, honey, they coming out the bag. They are literally coming out the bag. Yeah, let's get some shout outs. Hi there, Call Dog. It's good to see you. Yes, it's good to see you. Introvert Truck. Okay, let me write that down right here. And you know, Runaway Slave is good. And yeah, Mike TV too. It's a lot of channels out here. Yes, it sure is. Yep, they be telling us we need to know these things. Good day, JR, Junior Meadows, and Lele. How you doing? How you doing? Yeah, sick as hell. They all are. We need to know these things and stuff. We ain't safe. We're not safe out here with them. If you ask me, ain't nobody safe around them, but we ain't safe around them. But other folks want to be around them, please do. But us, we finna get the hell away from them. We got to, y'all, to save us, to save our sanity. We on the brink of insanity because of white America. We so restless, mentally, physically, spiritually. We so restless. Our minds is just shot to hell dealing with these folks. All the compromising, all the tolerating. It's done took its toll on a lot of us. It have. If it wasn't for the resilience, if it wasn't for that strength of our ancestors, we couldn't do it. We could not do it. I don't care what nobody say. If it wasn't for our ancestors, and we got that in us, that resilience, we need it now. We need it now. We can't imagine what we dealing with, who we dealing with, whatever they are. I don't know, but it ain't right. It's not right. And as far as I'm concerned, my people need to know about life and the afterlife, because it's not enough for me. It's not enough for me to just, let us go into the afterlife, pass over, transcend, die, and not know that it's another alternative. I can't sit there and let us be trapped in life and in the afterlife too. Not with them, not with this. Not with this. So, today, y'all, I'm going to tell y'all what I found. Y'all know we done read They Were Her Property by, who was this by? Stephanie E. Jones Rogers. White women as slave owners in the American South. Ass is brutal. And then look what I seen today. Property. Yep. I think this right here is more about one woman and her man, the white woman and her husband, the master, and his relationship or his control over her slave or some old bullshit. I don't know, but she hated it. It brought out the rage, the beast in her. And and I was like, wow, this right here is like another portrayal of that right there and stuff, because the white woman is not innocent in none of this. None of it. And it's not out of her control either at this point, because she still can do something to say, hey, we done. We don't want to cause all this wreckage and devastation and destruction no more on Black people. They out there, everybody else out there, do the right thing for what you've done, for what she's done. It just comes to be that in all of this new, in all this revealing and exposing and stuff, she's being shown who she really is, the white woman, because it's always been my impression, and probably a whole lot of ours, that, it was mainly the white man that was in control of slavery. And, and that was pretty much it. We probably had some fanciful ideas that, the white woman tried to save us. Because, one of them tried to teach Frederick how to read, and the master went off about it and stuff, little things like that and stuff. So we probably romanticized it that, she would have helped us if she could have, but she was just, Mrs. was too faint. Massa hollered at her once and she was too faint. She was faithful for 2 weeks. So we knew Mrs. wasn't no help. But honey, that was far from the truth. That was far from the truth. White women were pulling out Black women fingernails and just doing things to make up for the strength that she didn't have, that the white men had to be brutal like that and stuff. It's just like, it's got to be known too, that she not innocent in any of this. I had no idea that white women got slaves when they were little babies. They were little girls getting slaves. 3 years old, get a slave. 3 weeks old, yeah, she 3 weeks old, gonna get her a slave to rock the little chair and stuff. And I'll do what the mother should be doing. Yep, a sinner if I ever heard of one. If I ever heard and thought of one, because it ain't our babies. It is not our babies. No, I'm sure of that now. Our babies ain't born as sinners. Our babies, no. They not born as sinners with that instinct in them, but white folks got that instinct in them. They got it in them. It ain't left. It ain't went nowhere. Dr. Joy DeGrasse said it. They ain't had no therapy. We ain't had no healing. We ain't had nothing. So I know we traumatized and stuff, but all of that's inside of them. Where it's still there. Where? It's waiting to come out. And then at the lynchings, they was there at the lynchings. So yeah, that right there must be read about and learned about too on this channel. And that's what we're going to do. We might read this tonight because it is, akin to this book. It's another version of it about her, the white woman. But I'm sure a whole lot of it is going to be focusing on the white man and stuff. But she wasn't innocent in any of it. So yeah, that's what it's going to be tonight. Property. Yep, Property by Valerie Martin. But let's get the fundamentals out the way and stuff because All this pretense and stuff is, it's finna end. Everybody got to be held accountable for what they've done to my ancestors. Yeah. You know, I didn't do none of this. Yeah. I didn't do any of this. My people didn't do any of this. We've been trying to get away. And you know, for everybody to sit there and to keep us in this situation is wrong. They know what's happened. I imagine everybody know about these things but us. Can you imagine the stuff that we've been reading and learning about? And other people already know it. I mean, other groups of people already know it. Everybody but us. But now we know. We finna learn now, today. Yeah, we finna learn exactly why we can't come together. Why we can't come together. Especially now going into a new world order. Ain't no need trying to talk it out if we trapped in some smart cities and shit. Ain't nobody gonna have nothing to get out of them smart cities because we ain't been creating. We ain't been inventing and stuff. Stuff for the new world order. We supposed to been creating that. Our ancestors create everything that we need for a safe, successful America. Progressive America. White America the one took this off the rails. They the one took everything that our ancestors built and created and contributed. They the ones took everything off the rail. Now we riding through the wilderness. Just riding through the wilderness stuff. We ain't on what our ancestors did for us. They stripping all of that away. But we were supposed to keep creating and stuff. But now we're going into a new world order and we ain't creating nothing that's going to assist us as a people. And if you notice it, everything that's being created and invented and stuff, you know, all of this AI and stuff like that, that right there ain't nothing but monitoring, surveillance. Yep. It's like a motherfucking vehicle, a train track. You know how the train just go on the track and stuff, them little toy trains that you get, and some of them things is big, you know, but yeah, it's gonna be like a train track and stuff, you know, and when the doors lock up on them Tesla cars and stuff and black people in them, it might take you straight on to the smart city. Yeah, when you wake up, you're gonna be in the smart city. They gonna chip your ass and stuff, and if you outside of that smart city, I'm just guessing, I don't know. I don't think like this and stuff. We ain't never had to think like this because we ain't never had the right information and stuff, possibly. I don't know. But we all better be thinking and wondering, hell, what's going on with all this shit right here? These 5G towers ain't nothing but military weapons. An old black man told me that. I was like, oh, okay, for real. But it's true. So, you know, let me give out some shout outs and stuff because, yeah. Okay. Yes, y'all. And you know, yep, I'm reading again. Yeah, we finished the book, 100 Years of Lynching. We're reading Property tonight. Yep, and it's like another version or portrayal or vision of they were her property. Yeah, they were her property. We probably won't find too many books detailing the white woman's involvement and stuff, but we learning as much as she was in this stuff because the white woman got like 97% of all the profit from slavery. Yes, but see, they done made it look like the white man was the one that was in control of everything. All of them slaves and stuff, a whole lot of them was the women's, the white women's. Yeah, George Washington's wife, Martha, she had 153 slaves. I said, damn, she must have started getting her slaves when she was like 3 days old, a day old. You know, I don't know. To give a baby a slave and stuff, that's a sinner. It's a sinner. So, you know, that's that. But yep, so we're gonna read again. Yeah. Yeah, I picked up some new books today. Yeah, I picked up Uncle Tom's Cabin. Yep, I picked up Uncle Tom's Cabin, Amistad. Remember Amistad, the movie? Yep, I saw that book. I got that too. I sure did. We need to get our own library and stuff. Yeah, wherever you see books and stuff, and wherever you at, if they got them little library houses, pull over and stop. Pull over and stop, honey. Have your bag specifically in your car for books. Go to the library and stuff, We just need to start getting prepared to do what we need to do for our families and stuff. We got to keep the education going. Somebody gonna have to remember, hell, that we is real. We did live. We were here. We have suffered. We have overcome. We are dominant, But these folks that act like shit, we are a mystery. And in about 50, 75 years, they probably won't even know. Black people really survived? I'm just saying. I want to know what the hell is going on. What does all this mean for my people? And everything that we done been through and stuff, it ain't good. It is not good. I want to help. I want to be part of the solution. And I thank y'all for being here. The ancestors thank all of us for being here because they ready. They just been waiting on us. You know how long it took for anybody to tell their stories and stuff on this level with us, for us, how much we need this. It's like a downpour of information. You know how it rained real good. That's like the information. That's like it's just raining on us and stuff, all the knowledge, all the information. And they ready for it and stuff. All our ancestors, it's like we getting all of them. So, I want you to embrace them and accept them and stuff because they are us. And they going to help us get through this. Let them give you their downloads. Let the ancestors give you their downloads and give you their guidance and stuff. I know we don't call on God and Jesus. Yeah. Now let's add the ancestors to it. I ain't even saying you got to get rid of it. And Yahushua and Yahweh and stuff, go on and keep it if you must. More is more. Maybe it'll help you out more. But add your ancestors in there because now, and see, we ought to know this. We're spiritual people. Hell, we all know these folks done made a fool out of us. Oh, they've been playing us to the teeth. Every instrument. They've been playing them motherfucker on us and stuff. So we already know this. Let's not doubt it. Let's just add our ancestors to our meditations. Start creating and growing and building for us at home, if that's where we're going to be. Because it's going to get to the point where, hell, if Sophia and them finna be outside and the robot dogs and stuff, I don't want to go outside anyway. I'd rather stay at home, in the house with my books and my family. Yep, I sure would. I don't want to be a part of the futuristic world. No, it's not pro-life to me. All of this is anti-life. Every last bit of it. And it's been going on. It's been planned against us. But let's read and stuff because we finna find some things. Find out, yep. Yep. And still don't want to do right. Yep. Well, they're going to have to do something. But I know it's time for us to go. I don't know who's going to take our place. I do not know who's going to take our place with white folks. And other folks don't want to. Don't nobody want to. That's the thing with other people. They like, shit, hell, we can't let them do us like that. Oh, hell no. You better keep black people down there so they'll be the ones that get the brunt, of white folks' hatred and stuff. Yeah. It ain't revealed itself yet. I'm looking for the receipts and stuff. I don't see them. But it ain't revealed itself yet, but it will. It sure will, honey. Folks gonna be like, oh, no. Somebody got to stay. Dr. Claude Anderson said that somebody got to take our place. If we stand up, then somebody else have to take our place. Don't nobody want to do it. Ain't nobody gonna want to do it. So, and that's too bad. That's not our problem. That is not our problem. And it's like, why anybody got to be on the bottom and stuff? I mean, why you got to intentionally put somebody on the bottom and keep them there for your selfish, sick needs and stuff? You know what I think? And I ain't even going to start off like that and stuff. Because it's a new species. It's a new species. And I read it in one of them books. Let me see what book was it. I was reading. This is Uncle Tom's Cabin. I'm just gonna read the first chapter, not the first chapter, the first paragraph. Cause when I seen that, I was like, whoa, is this trying to say what I've been saying? What I think? Cause it mentions species, yep. Late in the afternoon of a chilly day in February, two gentlemen were sitting alone over their wine in a well-furnished dining parlor in the town of P in Kentucky. Now, I don't know if it's saying Paducah, Kentucky, but, I'm sure it's some other P's, towns that start with P in Kentucky, but they didn't specify. There were no servants present, and the gentlemen with chairs closely approaching seemed to be discussing some subject with great earnestness. For convenience sake, we have said hitherto, two gentlemen. One of the parties, however, when critically examined, did not seem, strictly speaking, to come under the species. So I don't know if he was one of the clownimal types. And this is chapter 1, in which the reader is introduced to a man of humanity. We're going to read it and stuff and see. But yeah, I just know when I read it the first time, it wasn't that book right there. And then the portrayal I got and stuff was that, Uncle Tom loved that little white girl. And I had a problem with that book. I think I finished it. But yeah, after I came to that realization that Tom loved it, that little white girl, I didn't have that romanceful, feeling towards him and stuff. Like, Uncle Tom was the hero and stuff. Because I was like, he's supposed to have been, what about the little slave kids? Because, the little white girl died. She had some terminal illness in the book and stuff. And so, yeah, Tom would take her out in the garden and hold the little girl because she was getting weak and frail and stuff. And she loved it, Tom. So, yeah, and I was kind of like, I don't see Tom as no hero. I just didn't. Maybe with this book, I'll see it differently and stuff. Because, yeah, I forgive him too. I forgive Tom, I feel like if he was going to do anything and stuff, when he returned the slaves back to the master, if he was going to do anything and stuff, he should have ripped his shirt off and hung a piece of it on the tree and stuff and led the master and stuff another direction while he get the slaves to freedom. If he was going to be any type of hero. But now when I read the book and it say nothing like that, it just said that he took the slaves back and stuff and when nobody whipped and so, but I digress. But yeah, I am Face the Nation, y'all. We on Bolden Unchained, and we're here to assist Black America. First and foremost, finally, we're here to assist Black America. We don't wish no harm on nobody else and stuff like that. But yes, when worst come to worst, mine come first with me. I'm looking for an underground bunker bus. That's what we need. We're going to have it. We're going to have it. I don't know how we gonna get it and stuff, but the model is already out there. It's a video sister and brother did, the family did it. And they dug up the whole backyard and gutted out that bus, took out the seats, the steering wheel, the pedals, the gas pedal and the brake pedal. Yeah. And see, all we gotta do is get a couple of them, put them underground and stuff, 3, 4, 5 feet deep. Yeah. Dig some tunnels for some ventilation and stuff. That way, shit, if anything happen, come over here. Pew. I'm just saying, I don't know what's going on with America. I don't know how it's going to fall, but it's going to fall. And see, everybody ain't going to be able to get a passport and be able to go, to some safe place and stuff and then come back to America. So we need to have some extreme measures to be able to deal with it and stuff. And that's why I'm here to help my people and stuff. I want to be part of the solution shit. I can't just sit back and be like, what we going to do in the house and stuff. What we going to do in the house if we ain't got these small extreme measures like our personal libraries that we need? Because we still got to learn to evolve. We still going to have to learn to evolve. And we need sincere fundamental books and all that. Don't come up in there with no Amelia Bedelia. You know, I do got Helen Keller somewhere. But yeah, you know, all them other books and stuff, we need to get rid of them and stuff, because now is the time for us to get on a higher frequency and stuff. And I just want to help my people, you know. So what I'm doing is trying to find out why we can't come together. That's the question everybody asking and stuff. And I'm like, wow, it's been a long time since Malcolm asked, who taught you to hate yourself? But now black people trying to find out, and I am too. I want to know, because we can't come together. It was a little boy at a funeral. And he said, y'all, we can't let funerals be our get-togethers. Yep, and the whole family was like, oh, man. The sister walked off the stage because he'd been telling them. And this is why. I think so. If it changed, I'll let you know. But as far as I can tell y'all, it's white people that's done did all these things to us and that's done traumatized us. And we can't come together, because if we do, we're going to start building, creating. I don't care if it's a song, a dance, an outfit. I don't care if it's a whistle. It's going to be off the chain. It's going to be magnetic. It's going to be magnificent. And we can't even do nothing like that, because white America is afraid. They're afraid of our dominance. And that's what it is and stuff. So, yeah, we're here to talk about all that, to expose all that, talk about it, condemn it, everything. That's what it said in the copyright disclaimer. Criticism. Yeah, we're here to criticize it. I am. If that's what it is and stuff, and that's what it seemed like it is. I ain't seen nothing else that's done traumatized my people to the point where we can only be together for a couple of minutes, maybe a couple of hours. We got some of us that can be together for a couple of days, you know, but it ain't very long and stuff. And it's got to be, you know, on a lightweight scale and stuff. Can't be no creating, you know, and building and stuff like that. And it's instinctive. We don't know that we doing this and how it's affecting us. But it is. Yep, it is. So, yeah, if it changed, I'll let y'all know. We look it through a spiritual lens, because I'm not religious. I don't believe in religion like that no more and stuff. You know, I thought I was, but I'm not. You know, I'm just not. And I wish y'all would sincerely question it. If you don't want to, that's fine. Keep your Bible then. I just want you to be sincere in your religion and stuff, and ask your higher power some questions, because this life and the afterlife is up to you. And Dr. Deborah Bliss said, you know, don't nobody even know the truth. You don't know the truth until you decide what it is. And for me and stuff, yeah, it ain't what they told me. That ain't the truth. Not mine. I'm creating my own reality, life, and my own afterlife. They ain't finna create shit for me. I can create everything I need for me. My reality, right here, right now. Yep. My afterlife, where I want to spend it and stuff, they got us thinking it's either heaven or hell. No, it ain't. It's the afterlife too for us. We are different. We're from the cosmos, the ethers. So why wouldn't we have the option to go back to the ethers? Not to heaven. Heaven is like in the first universe. It's a whole multiverse out there. Yep, it's a whole multiverse out there, y'all. It's infinite. And it might be numerous multiverses. From what I wrote down when I get everything situated and stuff, nobody knows. But I know one thing, I ain't going to heaven with white folks. Nope, I done read enough to come to that determination that I'm not going to heaven with white folks. And for my ancestors right here on earth, right here in this life, they want me to help tell their stories to us so that we know. And so that's what I'm going to do. Yeah. And reading about it and stuff, we see our ancestors calling on God and Jesus. We reading about it in these books. These books are the truth, telling it. And we were never supposed to read. Now we reading and rocking. Yep. And it's for a reason, y'all. It's sincere. It's for a reason. We ain't meant to stay here. We meant to make it better while we're here. We as a people, black people, we supposed to have black babies. And we're supposed to heal our people before we leave and cross over. Yep, I just want to let us know, you know, with everything we learn and stuff, don't go to heaven. At least reconsider going somewhere else. Make that first detour Because you go to heaven and stuff, it's going to be the same thing up there. God forgive them. God forgive them. As long as they have remorse and ask for forgiveness and stuff, God forgive them. That's what I always learn. Unless you commit suicide, he don't forgive that, but he forgive everything else. So, yeah, it seemed to me like all y'all going to be up there in heaven together. So where's the justice for you in heaven, black people? Where the justice in heaven for you? Just because you don't remember, you don't have a body anymore, you don't remember what happened on earth and who did what. So Carol and Brian gonna fly right by Emmett Till. And they don't remember. But the higher power remember. God remember. Where's our justice at? So it don't make no sense to me. Yeah, so yeah, don't go up there. Consider, being free forever and ever and ever. Because you go to heaven, that's where you're going to be at forever and ever and ever and ever. Eternity. That's how it works. That's the mentality that they done gave us. Their vision. Yep. You got to take that power back and create your own vision, your own reality and afterlife. Yep. And, right here on earth and stuff, we know a lot of things is happening and Babylon is finna fall and stuff, but we can't stop it. We can't do nothing about it. Shit, all we do is get out the way. Yeah, I ain't trying to cause nobody no harm and stuff. Yeah, I'll leave you a bowl of water. But other than that, yeah, let me go on and move. We got to get out the way and stuff. This is out of our control. All of this, it was bound to come back. Karma come back for everything, don't it? So now it's time. Karma is coming back for all of this. For my ancestors. I don't know how y'all feel about that and stuff, honey, but I am proud. I'm ready. Spirit come through. Yes, I am ready, honey. My ancestors deserve their justice. Vengeance belongs to them. Yeah, I'm spiritual. I'm not religious. I'm spiritual. We look at through a spiritual lens of loyalty, resilience, and education. Yeah. And we've been reading about how loyal we've been to us. All this creating and stuff is behind the loyalty. Our loyalty to each other. All of these lynchings and stuff. The loyalty. And then you did have some black men and stuff, and they were so scared and stuff, they were like, just turn him over. Yeah, take him out. Get rid of him and stuff. Yeah, take him. But on the whole and stuff, we were there for each other. We loved each other. We tried to protect each other and stuff, but we just couldn't with what we were working with and who we was working with, white folks. So, we're looking at that, loyalty, resilience, and education. All three of them. And it might be some more in the future. But for now, yeah, that's what we're looking through. Loyalty, resilience, and education. And the copyright disclaimer, and then we're going to read and stuff. Copyright disclaimer under 107 of the Copyright Act 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research. Fair uses of use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. Non-profit, educational, or personal use tips the balance in favor of fair use. So see, whatever you got and stuff, you go on and get it. If it's a children's channel, a baby channel, an elderly channel, whatever, your spiritual channel, go on and get it and stuff. Even your religious channel like that. Go on and get it if that's what you feeling to do. Everybody got to be feeling this need that you're supposed to be doing something, Black America. I mean, everybody got to be feeling it. Even if you at the point where you ain't ready yet and you don't know what this is telling you to do. And why am I having all these thoughts and stuff and all these coincidences and stuff? That's the ancestor telling your ass, yeah, you get in this fight. If you see a good fight, get in it. That's what Vernon John said. So, it seemed to me like Black people, we need to just pay attention. Your Bible tell you to obey God and you hair up and do it. But then the ancestors telling you to step up and do something about us. What about us? And you just keep ignoring it and stuff. I know because I did it for 43 years. Yep, I didn't even know. But, yep, I was just, I don't know, distracted, unfocused, ignorant of the knowledge. because I didn't have all this knowledge and information and stuff, but I still didn't know. Yeah, it's really been like Dr. Joy DeGrasse said, post-traumatic slave syndrome. Yeah, Stockholm syndrome and stuff. We done romanticized being with our oppressor. White folks have. They done fucked our mind up and stuff. We can't even see our life without them. Yep. I don't want to have that mindset for their ass. Sure don't. Nope. I don't. I just want y'all to know. Things is different now. But this book right here is Property, a novel. And it says, this is Toni Morrison. This is what she said. This fresh, unsentimental look at what slave owning does to and for one's interior life must be a first. And the writing, so prized and clean-limbed, is a marvel. Yeah, so let's read about what it does to us and the white woman. And it's of a sexual nature because she was so jealous of the man, her husband, the white man, being in love with the black woman. This is by Valerie Martin, best-selling author of Mary Riley. And this is the book right here. This is the cover. Let me read the back of it real fast and stuff. A New York Times notable book, as chilling and satisfying as anything she has written, a fierce and uncompromising book, a bracing and cathartic work of art. That was the Chicago Tribune. We'll see. Valerie Martin's Property delivers an eerily mesmerizing inquiry into slavery's venomous effects on the owner and the owned. The year is 1828. The setting, a Louisiana sugar plantation where Manon Gaudet, Manongaudet, Manon Gaudet. Seemed like I heard them words before, that name before. Maybe it was a dream or something. I don't know, but it's because I was like, Manon Gaudet, what is that? Kind of seemed like a deja vu with that name and stuff. Pretty, bitterly intelligent, and monstrously self-absorbed, sieves under the dominion of her boyish husband. So she had a lot of rage and took it out on the black woman. In particular, she resents his relationship with her slave Sarah, who is both his victim and his mistress. Exploring the permutations of Manon's own obsession with Sarah against the backdrop of an impending slave rebellion, Property unfolds with the speed and menace of heat lightning, casting a startling light from the past upon the assumptions we still make about the powerful and the powerless. And then it's got some more reviews from like the New York Review of Books, Los Angeles Times, the Washington Post, the Miami Herald. And I'll take Toni Morrison. Yeah. I don't recognize no other names and stuff. The Oprah magazine. But yeah. From the Orange Prize citation, exuberance in a novel is a wonderfully. Let me read this right here. Is a wonderful quality. Property is the opposite of exuberant, but the great quality of this novel is fairness. It takes a very specific, dated subject and makes it universal. It looks at relationships of power and ownership among people living in a system which is manifestly evil. Yet they are ordinary, often good people. Oh, they are being damaged by their system. You can see it damaging them, and yet they never question it. The story is told through an unsympathetic narrator, yet the book is utterly where its moral heart is. This is a terribly difficult thing for a writer to do. The gaps in the book, what is left unsaid, are very important. So we're going to have to read between the lines. And this is Adolf Souf, AHDAFSOUEIF, Adolf Souf, head of the 2003 Orange Prize jury and author of The Map of Love and In the Eye of the Sun. Oh, I would like to read that, possibly. Some of his other books, A Recent Martyr, Mary Riley, The Great Divorce, Italian Fever. Oh, those are by Valerie. Yeah, Valerie Martin. And Valerie is the author of 2 collections of short fiction and 6 novels, including Italian Fever. Yeah. Oh, I guess this is where this one thing we wish to be understood and remembered, that the Constitution of this state has made Tom, Dick, and Harry property. It has made Polly, Nancy, and Molly property. And be that property an evil, a curse, or whatnot, we intend to hold it. And that's a letter from ABC of Halifax City to the Richmond Whig. To the Richmond Whig, January the 28th, 1832. So I guess they calling us evil, a curse, which we know is not true. We beginning to see who done projected what on who. Plantation Life, Part 1. Plantation Life, 1828. And this the white woman and stuff, you know. She must be looking out the window, son. It never ends. I watched him through the spyglass to see what the game would be. There were 5 of them. He gets them all gathered at the river's edge, and they are nervous. If they hadn't done this before, they've heard about it. First, he reads to them from the Bible. I don't have to hear it to know what passage it is. Then they have to strip. What passage is it? I want y'all to put down what passage it is when we finish reading, whatever he finna do. I don't know if these is girls or boys, though. We're going to read and find out. I don't have to hear it to know what passage it is. Then they have to strip, which takes no time as they are wearing only linen pantaloons. One by one, they must grasp the rope, swing over the water, and drop in. It's brutally hot. The cool water is a relief, so they make the best of it. He encouraged them to shout and slap at one another once they are in the water. Then they have to come out and do it again. Only this time, they have to hang on the rope 2 at a time, which means one has to hold on to the other. They had gotten this far when I looked. Oh, they were boys. 2 boys were pulling the rope, one holding on while the other clutched his shoulders. They were laughing because they were slippery. The sun made their bodies glisten and steam like a horse's flanks after a long run. The boy on the ground ran down the plank and off they went, out over the water, releasing the rope at the highest point of its arc and crashing into the smooth surface below like wounded black geese. He hardly watched them. He was choosing the next 2, directing one to catch the rope on its return, running his hands over the shoulders of the other, which made the boy cower and study the ground. I couldn't watch anymore. They have to keep doing this. Their lithe, young bodies displayed to him in various positions. When he gets them up to 3 or 4 at a time, he watches closely. The boys rub against each other. They can't help it. Their limbs become entwined. They struggle to hang on, and it isn't long before one comes out of the water with his member raised. That's what the game is for. I don't know, to get the boys to have a erection. Their limbs become entwined. They struggle to hang on. So he got them jumping on this rope to swim, to run out, to fly out over the water and then let go. And he got them doing it 2 or 3 at a time, so they in close proximity to each other and stuff. Oh, dang. So it isn't long before one comes out of the water with his member raised. That's what the game is for. This boy tries to stay in the water. He hangs his head as he comes out, thinking every thought he can to make the tumescence subside. Tumescence. This is what proves they are brutes, he says, and have not the power of reason. A white man, knowing he would be beaten for it, would not be able to raise his member. He has his stick there by the tree. It was never far from him. The boys fall silent as he takes it up. Sometimes the offending boy cries out or tries to run away, but he's no match for this grown man with his stick. The servant's tumulus subsides as quickly as the master's rises. Oh! So now he finna beat the boy, and his erection go down, but the master's, he get an erection. That's what it seemed like it said right here. The servant's tumulus subsides as quickly as the master's arises, and the latter will last until he gets to the quarter. Oh, so his hard on, because of that, his hard on lasts a long time. But that's where he got to go through his games. Oh, that's a lie. If he can find the boy's mother and she's pretty, she would pay dearly for rearing an unnatural child. This is only one of his games. When he comes back to the house, he will be in a fine humor for the rest of the day. Often, as I look through the glass, I hear in my head an incredulous refrain. This is my husband. This is my husband. Oh, wait. In the morning, he was in a fury because Mr. Sutter had gotten into such a standoff with one of the Negroes that he has had him whipped, and it'll be a week before he can work again. They are cutting wood in shifts, and there are no hands to spare. Well, so my husband has persuaded himself. The Negro, Leo, is the strongest worker we have. He maintains Leo was never a problem until Sutter decided he was insolent. Sutter's real grievance, he said, is that Leo has befriended a woman Sutter wants for himself. I had to listen to all this at breakfast. Sutter must be the overseer. I had to listen to all this at breakfast. He cursed and declared he would kill Sutter, then sent back the food, saying it was cold. Sarah went out with the plate. He leaned back in his chair and put his hand over his eyes. She's poisoning me, talking about Sarah. She's poisoning me, he said. When Sarah came back, he pretended to soften up. Is Walter in the house, he asked. Send him to me. So then we had the little bastard running up and down the dining room, putting his grubby fingers in the serving plates, eating bits of meat from his father's hand like a dog. Sarah leaned against the sideboard and watched, but she didn't appear to enjoy the sight much more than I did. The child is a mad creature, like a beautiful and vicious little wildcat. It wouldn't surprise me to see him clawing the portieres. Portieres, whatever that is, portieres. He has his father's curly red hair and green eyes, his mother's golden skin, her full pouting lips. He speaks a strange gibberish even Sarah doesn't understand. His father dotes on him for a few minutes now and then, but he soon tires of this and sent him away to the kitchen, where he lives under the table torturing a puppy, Delphine, Delphine was fool enough to give him. But damn. But he soon tires of this and sends him away to the kitchen, where he lives under the table, torturing a puppy Delphine was fool enough to give to him. Once the boy was gone, he turned his attention to Sarah. And that's my name, Daphne. It's a version of Delphine, but it's Daphne. You call me Face, though, but yeah. I'm just saying. Confirmation. Once the boy was gone, he turned his attention to Sarah. Go down and see to Leo, he said, and give me a report in my office when you have done. She nodded, eyes cast down. Then he pushed back his chair and went out without speaking to me. Now, he ain't said nothing to the white woman, to his wife. He thinks you are poisoning him, I said when he was gone, watching her face. Something flickered at the corner of her mouth. Was it amusement? I'll have more coffee, I said. On the pretense that she is of some use to me, I had Sarah in my room all morning with the baby she calls Nell, a dark, ugly thing, but quiet enough. She hates the sight of this one. No, he hates the sight of this one. It's too dark to be his, or so he thinks. Though stranger things have happened, and everyone knows a drop of Negro blood does sometimes overflow like an ink pot in the child of parents who are passing for white, to the horror of the couple and their other children as well. Somehow Sarah has prevailed upon my husband with tears and cajoling. I have no doubt to let her keep this baby in the house until it is weaned. At first she had it in the kitchen, but she was up and down the stairs 100 times a day, which made him so irritable he demanded that I do something about it. I told Sarah to bring a crate from the quarter and put it in the corner of my room, which earned me one of her rare, straightforward looks that I take to mean she's pleased. It was so hot, I had her fan me. So there we sat, I with my eternal sewing, Sarah applying the fan, and the baby sleeping in her box. She had rigged the box out absurdly with a ticking mattress stuffed with moss and covered by a rag quilt. She even tacked a loop of willow across the middle to hold up a piece of mosquito net. Is she a princess? I said when I saw this ridiculous contraption. If she's not itchy, she won't cry, Sarah replied. This, I had to admit, was a reasonable assertion. It is one of the annoying things about her. On those occasions when she bothers to speak, she makes sense. Ain't that some shit? After a while, the baby whimpered. Sarah took it up to suckle, holding it in one arm and working the fan with the other. She had pulled her chair up behind mine so I couldn't watch this process, but I could hear the nuzzling, snuffling sound, mirroring a little now and then like a kitten. I don't understand why she is so determined to suckle this one, as it would be passed down to the quarter as soon as it's weaned and sold away when it's old enough to work. He won't get much for her. Ugly, dark little girls aren't easy to sell. It would be a good joke on him if he had to give her away. Eventually, I grew bored and tried talking to her, a largely hopeless enterprise. You went down to tend to Leo, I said. I did, she replied. Is he bad? He'll live. Who did the whipping? I don't know. So much for conversation. Sarah wasn't trying to talk to her ass. You see how rude they were and stuff, how they talked about our babies and stuff? Oh, baby, honey, they sitting there with all them motherfucking sinners. I don't believe none of this is sincere. This is just a huge pretense. Now it's time to show theyself, their true colors, what's really the real. At dinner, he was gloomy. The new rollers for the sugar press have come. He spent the morning trying to get them installed and cut his hand badly in the process. It is all Sutter's fault because he couldn't use Leo, who has more experience with the press than anyone on the place. He had to call in 2 boys from the field who didn't know their right hand from their left and couldn't hold up their own pants. If Sutter wanted to whip boys near to death, he said, why couldn't he choose worthless ones like these two and not the only useful Negro on the place? When Sarah brought the potatoes in, he took a spoon from the bowl straight to his mouth and then spat it into his plate. Are we not possessed of a warming dish in this house? He cried out. Sarah picked up the bowl, poured the plate away, and headed for the door. He wiped his mouth vigorously with his napkin, swallowed half a glass of wine. I swear she puts them in the ice house. I looked at him for a few moments blankly, without comment, as if he was speaking a foreign language. This unnerves him. It's a trick I learned from Sarah. Since there are no servants presently available, Mistress Manning, he said, I have to prevail on you to serve me some meat. I got up, went to the sideboard, and served out a few slices of roast. When I set the plate in front of him, he attacked it like a starving man. Sarah came back in carrying a bowl wrapped in a cloth, which sent up a puff of steam when she opened it. He grunted approval as she spooned a portion onto his plate. I went to my place but couldn't bring myself to sit down. I have a headache, I said. I'll have dinner later in my room. He nodded then. As I was leaving, he said, I would like to speak to you in my office before supper. Will 4 o'clock be convenient? I said. Yes, he replied through a mouthful of food. He prides himself on being different from his neighbors, but his office looks exactly like every planter's office in the state. The good carpet, the leather-top desk, the engravings of racehorses, the Bible with the ribbon marker that never moves, employed as a paperweight. The cabinet stocked with strong drink. I kept him waiting a quarter of an hour to irritate him. When I went in, he was sitting at the desk pouring over his account books. He does this by the hour, totaling up long lists of supplies and others of debt. Without looking at me, he observed, someone is stealing corn. Are you sure there's no mistake in your figures? I asked. He looked up. Will you sit down? He said, gesturing to a chair. I was so surprised by his civil tone that I did as he asked and busied myself arranging my skirts until he should be moved to reveal the motive of his summons. 3 of Joel Borden's Negroes ran away on Sunday. He began. Last night, one of them broke into Duplanter's smokehouse. The houseboy saw him and raised the alarm, but they didn't catch him. Duplantier says he's carrying a pistol, though where he got it, no one knows. Borden isn't missing any firearms. I see, I said. So they'll be coming this way. Yes, I agreed. They'll probably try to pass through the bottomland and get to the boat landing. I'm joining the patrol after dark. I've got 2 sentries I can trust here. They'll be moving around all night. I'll lock the house and put the dogs in the kitchen. Delphine is afraid of the dogs. Well, she'll just have to be afraid, he said impatiently. She'll be a heap more scared if one of these bucks comes through the window with a pistol. That's true, I said. I want you and Sarah to stay in your room. Lock the door and don't come out for anything until I come back. I kept my eyes down. Wouldn't it be better for Sarah to stay in the kitchen with Delphine? Don't worry about Delphine. She'll have Walter and Rose with her. Walter is a mad child and Rose a flighty girl. Neither would be of much use in a crisis. And Sarah will be safer with me, I observed. You'll be safer together, he corrected me, scowling at my impertinence, then neatly changing the subject. It's all Borden's fault. He doesn't half-feed his Negroes, and his overseer is the meanest man on earth. The ham they got from Duplantier was probably the first decent food they'd had in a year. Is Joel here or in town? He came up quick enough when he heard about it. Now he's grumbling that he'll be out $2,000 if we kill him. Not one man on the patrol is going to risk his life to save one of these damn runaways. If we can find them, they'll be better off dead than dragged back to Borden's overseer. And I've no doubt they know it. Then they must be desperate. He gave me a long look, trying to detect any mockery in this remark. Evidently, he found none, and his inspection shifted from my mood to my person, where he found cause for a suspicion of extravagance. Is that a new dress? He asked. No, I replied. I retrimmed it with some lace Aunt Lelia sent. His eyes swept over my figure in that rapacious way I find so unsettling. You've changed the neck. He couldn't be dismissed as an unobservant man. Yes, I said, the styles have changed. I wonder how you know when you have so little society. I copied it from a paper my aunt sent with the lace. It's very becoming, he said. There was a time when I was moved by compliments, but that time is long behind us, as we both know. Still, he manages to work up some feeling about what he imagines is my ingratitude. I'm sorry to vex you by remarking on your appearance, Manning, he said. You are free to leave if you know business of your own to discuss with me. I stood up. What business might that be? I wondered. Perhaps he'd care to have a look at my accounts. On one side, my grievances. On the other, my resolutions. All in perfect balance. I allowed my eyes to rest upon his face. He brought his hand to his mustache, smoothing down one side of it, a nervous habit of his. It's always the right side, never the left. Looking at him makes my spine stiffen. I could feel the straightness of it, the elongation of my neck as I turned away. There was the rustling sound of my skirt sweeping against the carpet as I left the room, terminating thereby another lively interview with my husband. My mother always slept with a servant in the room, a practice I disdained in my own house. I had Sarah bring up a pallet and put it next to her baby's box. At first, I thought I would place the screen so that I wouldn't have to see her sleeping. Then I decided to block off an area for the chamber pot, as I was even less inclined to witness her at that activity. I hope you don't snore, I said, as she was struggling with the screen. It was hot in the room, and I was vexed by the stupid business, the unnecessary panic, the stamping and bellowing of the men who had already descended upon our dining room, where they were displaying their rifles to each other and gulping down his best whiskey. Their voices washed in under the door, droning and raucous, raucous, droning and raucous by turns. There was much bandying about of Joe Bolden's name. They considered him a fop and a dandy, too interested in the next gala party to attend his own crops. He is in the city more than at his own house, and the result is that his Negroes are loose in the countryside. I bade Sarah brush my hair while I waited for them to leave. It relaxes me and gives her something to do. She was looking gloomy, no more pleased than I was to be shut up in close quarters. A fly buzzed around, landing on the mirror and crawling over our reflection. Kill it, I said. She dropped my hair and took up a swaddle. When she had smashed the thing, she wiped it away with a bit of rag. No sooner was this done than another came buzzing in at the window, skittering madly across the ceiling. Finish my hair, I said, and then fill the trap. She took up my hair, which was already damp with perspiration, and began braiding it. I looked at her reflection, her face intent on the task, a few drops of moisture on her forehead. She's an excellent hairdresser. I watched her long fingers smoothing back the waves at my temple. She watched her hands too, looking for any gray hairs to pull out. My hair is thick, wavy, too brassy in my opinion, though father always calls it his golden treasure. When she was done, she pinned the braid up and my neck was cool for the first time all day. We could hear the chairs scraping downstairs, the heavy footsteps and laughter as the men went out on the porch. Then the shouting as they mounted their horses and clattered off on their mission. Behind that racket, a dense stillness announced the long night ahead of us. Do you know anything about these runaways? I asked Sarah. She was filling the base of the trap with sugar water. One of them is brother to Delphine, she said. She looked up over the glass to see how this information affected me. Were they coming this way in the hope of help from Delphine? I thought, what if she was foolish enough to let them into the house? But she wouldn't do that. She would be too afraid of the dogs. That was why my husband had closed them up with her and sent Sarah to hide with me. Did he tell you to stay with me, I asked, or was it your idea? For answer, all I got was one of her smirks. I was dreaming. There was a fox. As I approached the animal, it opened its mouth as if panting, and a high-pitched scream came out. This the white woman. I was up inside that scream, which was in my room, a shriek so loud and harsh, I thought a woman was being murdered outside my window. I remembered Delphine was in the kitchen, the runaway Negroes. I sat up breathless, ready to leap from the bed, but before I did, the scream moved rapidly past the house, swooping away in the direction of the cabins. An owl, I said. I heard a rustling sound in the corner of the room, which gave me another shock. As I recalled, I was not alone. The moonlight made a bright swath across the floor, ending at Sarah's pallet. I made out the white contour of her shift and the light of her eyes watching me steadily. Sarah was looking at her ass. Shit. We looked at each other without speaking, while my heart slowed to a normal pace. Her baby made a muffled cry, and she turned to take it up in her arms. Has he come back? I asked. About an hour ago, she said. You was asleep. I fell back on my pillow. There was a thin breeze pressing the net lightly towards me. I loosened the front of my shift to take advantage of it. When I turned on my side, I looked down to where Sarah lay, the child curled up at her side, her wide eyes watching me, and I thought, she has been watching me like that this entire night. Thinking that about that baby. At breakfast, he was ravenous. I ate a piece of bread with Creole cheese and drank a cup of strong coffee while I watched him shoveling ham, hominy, potatoes, eggs, and griddle cakes. Everything was hot enough for him. When he had finished, he wiped his face with his napkin and called for more coffee. Then he launched into the story of his evening adventure. Because they're looking for the runaways, tried to escape slavery. The fugitives never came anywhere near our house. As the patrol had reasoned, they made for the bottomland in the hopes of sneaking onto a boat and getting to New Orleans. The patrol was 9 armed men on horseback and a pack of hounds. They picked up the trail after an hour or so, and in the next, spotted one of the Negroes climbing a tree. They left a few dogs to keep him up there, then went after the other 2. These were eventually discovered hip deep in mud at the river's edge. They let the dogs at one, which must have been quite a spectacle, as the dogs got stuck in the mud too and had to be hauled out with ropes. The second fugitive took advantage of the confusion to get to the water, where he floundered about because he wasn't a good swimmer. 2 members of the patrol went down and shot him. The one in the mud was finally pulled out like the dogs and gave up pretty readily, so they tied his hands behind his back, threw the rope over a tree limb, and went back for the one the dogs were guarding. He had tried coming down from his perch, only to get one foot nearly chewed off, and was so scared they had no trouble talking him down. They put him on a horse and went back for the one they left tied up. Before they saw him, they heard him screaming for help. Lo and behold, an alligator had discovered him, and he was running around in the middle, trying to keep from being eaten for dinner. The alligator got so agitated it attacked the horses, so they shot it too. And that was what Joel Bolden got delivered to his door in the middle of the night. One dead Negro, one with his foot nearly torn off, one just scared to death, and a dead alligator. As he told this story, he laughed at his own wit. It had been an exciting night. Sarah stood at the sideboard listening closely, her eyes on the butter dish. I put a bland smile on my lips and kept it there, sipping my coffee during the irritating intervals of his flimsy laughter. Yeah, he was coughing while he was laughing and stuff. When he was finished, he looked from Sarah to me, including us in his genial pleasure. I thought George's Negroes were armed, I said. No, he replied, they weren't. Sarah gave me a darting look. Wasn't one of them Delphine's brother? I asked. His good humor evaporated. He looked from Sarah to me and back again. All you women do is talk, he said. As this was his first truly humorous remark of the morning, I indulged him in an unladylike snort of laugh myself. Eben Bolden, he said to Eva. Yes, he was one of them. He's the one nearly lost his foot to the dogs, and when Bolden's overseers threw with him, his foot would be the least of his troubles. He laid his hand across his chest, wincing from a sudden pain. So you and Delphine can quit poisoning me, he said. I saved her damn brother's life. Sarah's face was a mask. She glanced at his cup, then took up the pot to refill it. You women should think about what would become of you if I wasn't here, he said, gazing suspiciously into his half-full cup. Does Sarah think about what would become of her life if he were gone? How could she not? What would become of me must be her next question, as she belongs to me. See, Sarah belonged to her. The women had the slaves most of the time. The men had some, but it was the white women who had the bulk. They came with dozens of slaves sometimes. Martha went with George with 153 slaves. Yep, and she belongs to me. She can't doubt that I would sell her. I would sell all of them. I imagine it sometimes. Selling them all in the house and the land. Settling his debts, which are considerable. He has loans from his brother in 3 banks, and he has used the house as collateral for repairs on the mill. He has what my father called planter's disease. He keeps buying land when he hasn't the means to cultivate it. If the price of sugar falls again this year, it will hurt him, but he won't have the sense to stop planting to meet the shortfall. He doesn't know I can read an account book, but I can, and I've been looking into his for some time now. He might pull through this year if the weather is good and the price is stable, but this combination is unlikely, as good weather means a better crop for everyone, which would drive the price down. I never speak to him about such things, but she reading his account books and stuff. And see, and they were her property. It explained that white women went to the point of having the law. They had a law made that their slaves were theirs. And the master, he couldn't touch them. He couldn't beat them. He couldn't order them around. He couldn't sell them unless, in this case right here, I don't know how he did it, but he had control over hers. Maybe she really loved it, and let him have some control over her slaves. I don't know. But it explained that it was the white woman that had slaves and stuff. And a lot of times, white men would dress themselves up, put on a 3-piece suit, and make themselves look like they had money and wealth and land when they really didn't. And they would end up, the debtors that they owed money and stuff to would come and take the slaves. So the white women had that law made up that them slaves were hers solely, only for her benefit. I imagine it sometimes, selling all of them in the house and the land, settling his debts, which are considerable. He has loans from his brother in 3 banks, and he has used the house as collateral for repairs on the mill. He has what my father called planter's disease. He keeps buying land when he hasn't the means to cultivate it. If the price of sugar falls again this year, it will hurt him. But he won't have the sense to stop planting to meet the shortfall. Oh, shit, I'm reading the whole thing. I'll read the whole thing, yo. It's again. Though his ruins entail my own, I long for it. Often I'm grateful that my husband didn't live to see me in this place. If he knew what humiliation I suffer every day, he would be at the door with his carriage to take me home. Our home is lost, but if it was still there, still ours, though it was not half as grand as this one, with what joy would I return to its simple comforts? Do the dead see us? Is Father weeping for me in the graveyard? If my husband died, I think. If my husband died, but he won't. Not before it's too late for me. She don't really sound like she all together. I'm just saying, to me. Not having to take care of yourself, I guess. It leaves a lot to the imagination and seems so almost shallow, empty. This afternoon's game was a more straightforward. Wow, another one of his games. This afternoon's game was a more straightforward, not very original at all. 2 strong boys were required to fight until one couldn't get up no more. The loser then received a whipping. It was an eerie scene to watch through the glass because there was no sound. Doubtless the boys were grunting and groaning, and he was urging them on, but it all looked as serene and orchestrated as a dance. I watched for several minutes. One of the boys was clearly the better fighter, though the smaller of the 2. Come look through this glass, I said to Sarah. And tell me who that smaller boy is. Sarah backed away as if I asked her to pick up a roach. No, missus, she said. And why not, I asked. I don't like that glass. Have you never looked through it? She looked down, shaking her head slowly. This surprised me. The glass is on the landing, pointing out of the only window in the house that faces the quarter. He had it specially mounted for this purpose, to watch the Negroes at their daily business, to see if they are congregating. Sarah must pass it 10 times a day. I'd look if I were you, I said. You might see something you need to know. For answer, she took another step back. Or do you already know everything you need to know? I said, turning back to the glass. I was right. The taller boy lay face down in the dirt, his legs drawn up under him, trying to lift himself up like a baby learning to walk. The victor stood before him, unsmiling, sweating. In the shadow of the tree, I saw him, bending over to put down his Bible and take up his stick. As he turned toward the fighters, he said something to the victor, who looked up boldly at the house, directly at me, or so it seemed. I backed away from the window, stunned, momentarily as guilty as a child caught stealing candy. Sarah had passed into my room where her baby was whining. Why should I feel guilty? I thought. When he was courting me, he was mysterious, so he whooped the one that lost, and they gave him a hard on, an erection. And then he go and rape a black woman. Yep. When he was courting me, he was mysterious, and I took his aloofness for sensitivity. He was a man who required his linen to be scented and spotless, who could not stay long in the city because the stench from the sewers offended him. When he visited our cottage, I had the parlor scrubbed out and scented with rose water and vetiver, Vetiver, and my own hair washed with chamomile. He never failed to comment on the agreeable atmosphere in our rooms. If he's fastidious, my Aunt Lelia said, when she heard about our engagement, you'd best have my Sarah. She's country bred, used to country houses. She's the best housekeeper I've ever had, though she's not 18. She hates the town because she says the dirt walks in the house every time the door is open. I will give her to you as my wedding gift. See, they just gave white women slaves. They just for gifts, presents, surprises. Yeah. And that was how Sarah came to this house 6 weeks before I did, commissioned to ready it for my arrival. Ain't that some shit? My husband was impressed with her and wrote my aunt himself to thank her for this prize. His house had never been so well arranged. I bet it hadn't. I wonder how my aunt could have dealt my happiness such a blow. Did she imagine my husband was different from hers? Did she think that because I was young and pretty, I was proof against the temptations presented by Sarah? Or was she only desperate? I learned later, much too late, that my uncle had lost his head when a free man of color offered to buy Sarah so that he might free her and marry her. So, was her husband sleeping with Sarah? Mm-hmm. The free man was in my uncle's employ, overseeing the construction of an addition to their house, and he fancied that he was in love with Sarah. But my uncle fired the man, who straightaway sued for damages. This so enraged my uncle that he had Sarah tied up in the kitchen and whipped her himself in front of the cook. That's when my aunt began to look for some place to get rid of her. The day I arrived here, she was standing on the porch with the others, Delphine and Bam, the butler who is gone now, and Rose, who was just a child, supposedly of use to Delphine in the kitchen. Here we are, he said, helping me down from the carriage. Your new home. The house is in the West Indies style, flush to the ground with brick columns below and wooden above. The stairs gallery is wide and closed in by a rail, but the porch below is open to whatever stumbles across the brick floor. lizards, snakes, and every kind of beetle the swamps can disgorge. Casement doors open across the front, upstairs and down, framed by batten shutters that are only closed in hurricanes or at the threat of a revolt. If they think, black people finna revolt, they'll close them then. I went ahead of my husband to greet the minimal staff. Delphine gave me a quick curtsy and an open, curious look. I asked her name, greeted her, was introduced to Rose, who couldn't raise her eyes from my skirt. Bam, a lanky, long-faced, dark-skinned fellow, dressed in a coat that was too narrow in the shoulders and short at the sleeves, gave me a formal bow and said, "Welcome, Mrs." "This is Bam," my husband said. I nodded, turning to Sarah. I knew who she was, that she was my aunt's wedding gift. Her appearance was pleasing. She was tall, slender, light-skinned, neatly dressed, excellent posture. Her hands were folded over her apron. She acknowledged me with something between a bow and a curtsy, but she wasn't looking at me at all. She was looking past me with an expression of sullen expectation at my husband. He had already. I ain't gonna say nothing. Father never kept more than 15 field hands and their families. Each year, depending on his crop, he hired extra hands for the picking and ginning. Cotton is a less finicky crop than cane and doesn't require the bulk of the harvesting and milling to be done all at once under the pressure of a hard freeze. Cane growers spend Christmas in a panic, and the Negroes don't have their party and holiday until after the New Year. Whenever Father went to the hiring barn, the Negroes pressed around him and begged him to take them on. They all knew they would be better housed and fed on his farm than on their master's grand plantations, and that they would have a full day of rest once a week. Our New Year's party was famous among them, and once hired, they shouted and slapped one another on the back, congratulating themselves on the feast they would enjoy together. I remember standing at the window to watch their procession come up from the quarter. The torches were like flaming birds swooping and soaring over their heads. Father stood on the porch with his basket of envelopes, each with a name on the front and a crisp bill inside. There was much laughter, joking, and singing. When each one had reached his gift, Father cried out, "And now for the feast," and led them to the barn, which was all festooned with greenery, with long tables set out, draped in bright red cloths and laden with beef and pork roast, chickens, turkeys, bowls of greens and mashed potatoes, all manner of fruit, breads, puddings, pies, candies, and along the walls, barrels of sweet wine and tafia. I was allowed to go with him and see the bustle as they took their places and began piling their plates. Later in my bed, I heard the first strings of the fiddles and the scraping and shouting as they pulled the tables to the side and began the dancing, which lasted late into the night. In the morning, everyone slept late, and Father arrived at the table as we were finishing our breakfast. "I believe the Negroes enjoyed their festivities," he would say, sitting down to cold coffee and leftover eggs. Father was strict and fair. None of our people could marry off the farm. Indeed, they could never leave it unless they had some compelling reason. And visits by Negroes from the neighboring farms and plantations were strictly forbidden. None of that wasn't fair. He didn't allow them to work garden patches of their own, as he said it gave them a notion of independence and divided their loyalty, so that they might take more interest in their own patch than in the farm. In order to have peace and harmony, he said, the Negroes must recognize that the farm is their provider and protector, that it gives them every good thing: food, medical attention, clean housing, heat in winter, friends and family, that it is a place that it is the place they come from and where they will be valued and cared for until they die. Dang. Your life and your afterlife. That's what they want. Honey, they want your life and your afterlife. Forever. Sure do. And they ain't got no qualms about it. They ain't got no bad feelings, no guilt about it, no questions, or is this wrong? Or how can we do this? And sleeping peacefully at night. Yeah, I gotta scratch my scalp and stuff, y'all. Ooh-wee. He would have no overseer. He had the same driver for 15 years. He used the whip sparingly and stood by while the driver administered the sentence. For he said it was wrong that any master be seen raising a whip himself. It demeaned him in the eyes of those who stood by. I was never allowed, as most planters' children were, to play with the Negro children on our farm. Father considered it a perverse practice that resulted in a coarsening of the master's children and was the source of inappropriate expectations in the Negroes, who must feel themselves the equals of their playmates. This familiarity could breed naught but contempt, Father maintained, and so I learned to make companions of my dogs. Above all, Father deplored the practice of some of his neighbors, who paraded about the town with their mulatto children in tow. That these men were often to be seen singing in church on Sunday morning was one of the more reasons, Father maintained, to have nothing to do with religion. Religion was for the Negroes, he said. It was their solace and consolation, as they were ours. So religion is y'all, is black people's consolation. But black people is white people's consolation. Yeah, we white folks comfort. Religion is our comfort. That's what he said. In other words, religion was for the Negroes, he said. It was their solace and consolation. It's their comfort, as they were ours. He ain't saying as religion was ours. He's saying as they, the people, the black people, were ours. I didn't know as a girl how remarkable Father was. When my mother complained that his death was no accident, I took her charge to be the product of her grief. But now I think he must have had a world of enemies. When our home was gone and we moved to the city, I learned that Father, who was so strong, loving, stern, and fair, was all that stood between my innocent happiness and chaos. I sometimes think Sarah blames me for her fate, though I had nothing to do with it. She sealed it herself shortly after I arrived by getting pregnant. The father was my husband's butler, Bam. I had noticed that he could not keep his eyes off of her when Sarah passed through the room, and I was not surprised to learn that they hoped to marry. She told me first, and I saw nothing against it. She entreated me to tell my husband, as she feared he wouldn't agree to the match. This was when she still talked and behaved like a normal servant, asking for permission, eager to please. I agreed to inform my husband of her request. It seemed an advantage match to me, as it would serve to strengthen their loyalty to the property. These marriages the Negroes make are not legal, but they set great store by them. Dang. How they gonna say our marriages weren't legal because we jumped the broom, a lot of us, because we didn't have the paperwork. So they act like our union wasn't valid. I wonder now, how could I have been such a fool? My husband's reactions to this news was to leap up from his desk, bellowing like a bull. He bid me send Sarah to him at once, and when she came, he pulled her inside by her arm and commenced slapping and hitting her until she was flat on the floor, begging him to stop. It was not to be borne, he swore, that he should be treated in this fashion in his own house. When I spoke a word on her behalf, he pushed me out of the room and slammed the door in my face. Then, while I was standing there listening to Sarah's pleas and his curses, I understood everything. Sarah had resisted him all those weeks when I wasn't there, and now she had tried to outmaneuver him, but she never would again. My husband called upon Mr. Sutter, who appeared in the dining room just before dinner with two brutish field hands at his side. The three of them dragged Bam off to the quarter, howling that he never had been whipped in his life and would not be whipped now. He would kill himself first. Later, we learned that he escaped his captors briefly, took up an axe from a stump, and threatened to cut off his own hand to render himself worthless to his master. The boys rushed him, and in the ensuing struggle, one of them got a deep gash in his leg, which so enraged Mr. Sutter that he beat Bam near to death. It was 6 weeks before he was recovered enough to be transported to the city where he was sold. Sarah's baby, a boy, was taken from her as soon as it was born and sent out to nurse at my brother-in-law's plantation upriver, with the understanding that when he was old enough to work, he would be sold, and the profit, after his board was deducted, divided between the brothers. Sarah wept, pleaded, then grew silent and secretive. My husband was pleased with himself, though he'd been forced to sell a valuable Negro at a loss. When the dealers saw Bam's scars, they took him for a troublesome fella and lowered their offers accordingly. By the end of that year, Sarah was pregnant with Walter, her husband's son. Oh-wee. But yeah, it wasn't all peaches and cream and stuff. Let's see it. Oh, these look like some long chapters. Now, I know this book got chapters. It said chapter 1. Oh, it started out part 1. Oh, yeah, I don't know if we're going to be able to read all of part 1 tonight. We're going to read most of it and then finish it tomorrow night and then start with part 2. We'll be done with this probably in about 2 or 3 days. Yeah, we should be done with this. So how did they get to this huge pretense now? Joel Bolden, Borden, stopped here on his way to the town with a bag of doves he'd shot himself and a fresh ham. Not something we need, as we've pigs to spare. My husband asked him to stay for dinner, and he agreed. Though the men all talk behind his back, Joel is such an easy fellow, they treat him like a friend to his face. And of course, when they go to town, they are quick to look him up, as he knows where all the parties and dances are, and is welcome in the best houses for his charm and wit. Once a year, he gives a party at his plantation, Riviera, and there's a line of carriages up the river road for a solid day. I attended once, the first year I came here. Now, as I came into the dining room, I found George sprawled over a chair facing the windows, a glass of bourbon on the table next to him. My husband was not in the room. Sarah came in with a stack of plates to lay the table. Joel looked around and seeing me, leaped to his feet, holding out his hands to take my own. Manning, he said, looking me up and down, you haven't changed. No, wait, I think you are a little more beautiful. But I have changed. So much that I hardly remember how to carry on trivial banter, though once I was proficient. You look well, Joel, was all I said. He's a handsome man in an indolent, good-natured way. He has only enough energy to seek his own pleasure continually. Everything else is too much for him. I saw your mother last week, he said, and I promised I would look in on you before my return. He has a bevy of old ladies who adore him. My mother is one. She wanted Joel to marry me, though we all knew it was impossible because Joel needs money and I have none. He played at courting me briefly, then moved on to another available beauty. When he decides to marry, he would choose someone rich, possibly older than he is, but for now, poor girls always come with doting mothers. Who ply him with dinner and sherry or port. I wonder how much longer he can hold out without selling something. Please tell I am well, I said. He released my hands, puzzled by my unresponsiveness. Then the reason for it came banging in the door, brandishing a bottle and addressing a barking order to Sarah. He pounced on Joy with fake geniality, Geniality, on the subject of a dog he must see before he left. I followed Sarah to the door and whispered to her, "Tell Delphine to serve a blank mange for dessert. Tell Delphine to serve a blank mange for dessert. BLANCMANGE. She nodded and went out. My husband was opening the wine bottle, a particularly fine claret which he highly recommended to our guests. Though I don't usually drink in the afternoon, something in his excitement at having company made me decide to join him. I took 3 glasses from the sideboard and brought them to the table. My husband gave me a quick glance, skepticism combined with surprise. He thought Joy had stopped because he was grateful that his Negroes weren't all dead. But I knew he had come, as he said, because he promised my mother he would. She had sent a letter the day after the patrol, full of the idiotic rumors circulating in town. Joy's 3 Negroes had become 10, armed with rifles and machetes, and intent on joining a band who lived in the swamp downriver. I had not had time to respond to this jittery letter. My husband wanted to talk about Cain, and so he did, all through the meal. He went on and on about the press and the Bagasse, Basse, and the market and the weather until I thought I would faint from boredom. All Joy knows about sugar is what his overseer tells him. He and I drank most of the wine while my husband entertained us with estimates of how much time, how much money he could save if he had the newest mill, which is more efficient than any previously invented and more expensive than any planter can afford. Sarah came in and out, bringing new dishes, removing plates. My husband neither spoke to her nor looked at her, nor did Joel, who was occupied in sending me sly remarks about a new mill that ran on bourbon, and another that actually ran on sugar, an invention long overdue. He is so droll, and since he kept filling my glass, I was soon feeling relaxed and gay, as I always was in the old days. My husband didn't appear to object. It was such a rarity for him to see me smile. When the bottle was empty, he excused himself to go off for another. Joy took my hand in his and said, "Manning, why don't you come to town for a visit? It's so dull without you there." "You have no idea what dullness is," I said. "You've no experience of it." At these words, my husband returned, carrying 2 bottles. His timing so appropriate that I was overcome with laughter. Joy laughed too, at his host's expense. My husband regarded us hopefully. "I have an excellent port," he said. "I shall fall off my horse before I get to False River," Joel exclaimed. Then my husband pressed him to stay the night, but there was never any hope of that. I could see the wasted afternoon through Joel's eyes, napping or reading a book or looking at dogs when he could be arriving in town in time for an elegant supper, followed by gambling and flirting. What would it be like to be married to such a man, I thought, to enter on his arm a room full of envious girls? A familiar gloom descended upon me. With Joel, I would have had children. Sarah came in with the blankets, which Joel, smiling at me, pronounced his favorite. He ate an entire one once at my mother's house, so it is a joke between us. Sarah set the dish down before me, and my husband directed her to bring the port glasses. As she passed behind him on her way to the sideboard, she cast him a furtive look. She wasn't happy about something. Then we heard a clattering in the hall, and the door flew open, and Walter rushed in. He was barefoot, wearing only white pantaloons and a red kerchief around his neck. He dashed around the table, his spindly arms raised over his head, his eyes rolling wildly, singing something he apparently thought was a song, though it had neither tune nor sense. He stopped at my husband's chair only long enough to shriek and pushed himself off the table. Then he careened past me and threw himself at Joel. grasping him by the waist and burying his curly head in his waistcoat. A good many things happened at once. My husband rose from his seat, shouting at Sarah to take the boy from the room. Walter lifted his face and began gibbering at Joel, who turned to me with an expression of astonishment and asked, "What have we here?" Then, as Sarah pulled the boy away by the arm, I saw Joel take in the mad creature's marked resemblance to my husband. I believe his mouth dropped open. My husband understood that Joel understood, which infuriated him. He pushed back his chair and followed Sarah and the screaming child, directing slaps at one and then at the other one. The boy took the blow on the back of his head and howled, so enraged that he lost his footing. Sarah scooped him up by the waist and took him, kicking and screaming, from the room. My husband slammed the door behind them and came back to the table. I could feel Joel's eyes upon me and my cheeks burned with shame. I heard my father's voice, reminding me that a gentleman never raises his voice to a servant in public. What would he have thought of a man who strikes a child at a dinner party? My husband sat down in a huff and busied himself pouring out the port. An awful silence enveloped the table, and I could think of no way to break it. At last, Joel said, "Are you going to serve me that dessert, Manning, or is it just there to tempt my appetite?" "Of course," I said, taking up the spoon. "Just pass me your plate." Then my husband asked Joel about the shooting at his place, a question which genuinely interested our guest, as he thinks the only pleasure in country living is the hunting. So they began to talk, and we went on as if nothing had ever happened, as if Joel wasn't going back to town with a story that would amuse his bachelor friends. Manning Gaudette has no children, but her husband is not childless. It was a common enough tale. No one would think it a paradox. My only comfort was that I knew Joel would say nothing to my mother. Yeah, I guess we're going to read a few more pages, and then we're going to wrap this up, since we ain't going to finish this all night. Also, he just sleeping with all of the slave women. It seemed to me like it. After Joel left, my husband went to see Mr. Sutter, and I went to my room. I was still flushed and tipsy from the wine, but my good humor had been thoroughly destroyed. As we stood on the porch bidding our guests farewell, my husband had insisted on passing his arm around my waist, and there was nothing I could do but bear it until Joel was out of sight. There we were, a loving couple, waving and smiling as our guest turned his horse toward the town, no doubt eager to be done with us in our sham of a marriage. When he was out of earshot, I removed my husband's hand and said, "Won't Joel have some amusing stories to tell when he gets to town?" "What are you talking about?" he said. "He can tell all my friends I live with a man whose bastard son runs wild in the dining room and who strikes his servants in public. That should paint an edifying picture of the choices I've made." He made no answer, but strolled off toward the quarter, going to sleep with some slave women. In my room, I threw myself across my bed and wept. I cried until I fell asleep. When I woke up, Sarah was there nursing her baby, her eyes closed, a dreamy expression on her face. "Did you send Walter in to get even with me or with him?" I asked. Her eyes snapped open. I turned my face away. "He just snuck in," she said. Oh. I'm going to have to get a clock so I can see what time it is. Yeah, we ain't going to be all night because we ain't going to finish this book. Yeah, maybe another few more minutes, another 10 minutes. Because it's getting there. Yeah. She crazy just like he is and stuff. I stayed in my room all evening. Sarah brought my supper on a tray, but I could scarcely eat it. Just after dark, it began to rain, and a wind picked up, rattling the shutters against the house. I changed into my night clothes. After Sarah had brushed my hair, I sent her and the baby away for the night. Then I lay upon the bed thinking about Joel, about the look on his face when he turned to me over Walter's babbling head and said, "What have we here?" Was it pity? I couldn't bear that. I thought about my husband, and these thoughts, never warm, were like icy jets darting about in my brain. I could hear him moving about downstairs. I dozed, woke again to hear him climbing the stairs. He is heavy-footed. It's hard to figure how one man walking can make as much noise as he does. He passed my door and went on to his own room. The rain had stopped. The wind had swept the clouds away, and moonlight streamed in through the window. My head ached from the wine, and my throat was parched. I slipped out of bed, poured myself a glass of water, then went to look out the window, just for something to do. I felt I wouldn't sleep again for years. It was still windy. The trees waved their upper branches as if they were calling me outside. I looked up at the clear sky, the glittering stars. Then I looked down and discovered, near the foot of an oak, a man. Startled, I stepped away from the window. Had he seen me? I pulled the curtain in front of me and looked out past it cautiously. Though my room was dark and it was unlikely that he could see me, it was a Negro, dressed in a white shirt and loose breeches that whipped around in the wind. He was standing very still, his arms crossed, gazing up at the house. I couldn't make out his features. Was he one of ours? I crept back to the bed and pulled the coverlet over me. He had no business coming up to the house after nightfall. If I woke my husband, he would go out and chase the fella back where he belonged. Then I thought that perhaps my husband knew he was there. Perhaps he was a sentry, posted to protect us from yet another rumor of revolt. I waited, breathing shallowly, as if the man might hear me. After a while, I got up and crept back to the window. I got on my hands and knees and peeped through the bottom pane. He was gone. I took a spoonful of tincture to get back to sleep and woke up feeling dead, unable to move my limbs. I heard the clock strike, and I knew I must get up and prepare myself to appear in the dining room, a thought that made my stomach turn. I lay clutching my sides and panting for a few moments. Then, as the sensation passed, I managed to get to my feet. I washed my face at the basin, trying not to see my reflection in the mirror, but I did see it, and it frightened me. I rang the bell, waited a moment, and rang it again. Shortly, I heard Sarah's steps on the stair. For God's sake, help me dress, I said when she came in. She opened the armoire, and pulled out my blue long morning dress, the lightest, least confining thing I own. Yes, I said, put it right over my shift. There's no time for the corset. I drank a little water and collapsed at the dresser. Just pin up the braid, I said. She took the brush to the front and secured the back with a dozen pins while I rubbed a little rouge into my cheeks. What is wrong with my eyes? I said, for they were red-rimmed and staring, the pupils like black saucers in a band of pale blue. We heard the bell to the dining room. It's best I go, Sarah said. Go on, I told her. Tell him I'll be down directly. When she was gone, I pulled on my shoes and fastened the tucker in the bodice of my dress. A cup of coffee would bring me round, I said. Abruptly, I remembered the man, but I had no time to think about him. I hurried out across the landing and down the stairs, clutching the rail like a woman in a swoon. As I approached the door, I could hear the chatter of dishes, the steady scraping of my husband's fork against his plate. When I went in, he was sopping up gravy with a piece of bread. He looked up at me without stopping. I took my seat, turned my cup over, and adjusted my skirt. Yeah, she thinking about she done lost her life with this bomb. Yeah. Are you ill? Are you ill? He asked by way of greeting. Sarah came between us with the coffee pot. Blessed coffee, I thought, as the fragrant steam rose from the cup. I took a careful sip before answering. I slept poorly. I said, is it because you take no exercise? Why are they pretending this stuff? These white folks is something else. Pretending to have a whole family, a whole life together and stuff. And every night, he going down there to the quarters, raping the slave women. That's what he doing. And that's why she's so against him now. She don't like him anymore because she know he going down there sleeping with them slave women and stuff. And I think she think that Sarah done fell in love with him, but he definitely got a thing for Sarah. Yeah, so I think she just like, fuck it, I'd rather go be with Joel. I don't know. But it's time to get the hell away from these people. It is time to get away from these folks. Is it because you take no exercise? He said. I waved away the plate of eggs Sarah held out before me. Just toasted bread, I said. And you eat nothing, he continued. It's no wonder you made yourself ill. He shoved in the last of his dipping bread, his dripping bread, smacking his lips appreciatively. More coffee, he said to Sarah. I dipped my toast in my cup. My head was beginning to clear a little. As Sarah leaned across him, he gave her a perplexed inspection. Send Walter to me, he said. Oh, please, no, I exclaimed. What objection could you have? He said coldly. My head is bursting, I complained. Sarah set the urn back on the sideboard. Send him to me, he said again. When she went out, he said to me, Joel Bolden is right. You should go to town and visit your mother. Why don't you write to her? My place is here, I said. Then the door opened and Walter was upon us, followed by Sarah, who was making a study of the carpet. Walter was wearing only a slip, such as field children wear. It was too big for him and hung off one shoulder. The skirt came nearly to his ankles. My husband pushed his chair back from the table and called the creature, holding out his arms to him. But the child just ran around the table, as is his wont, babbling and giving high-pitched shrieks for no reason. At length, he passed close enough for his father to grab him. Hold still, he said, struggling with his squirming catch. Hold still, and I will give you some muffin. He pinned the boy's arms behind his back with one hand, and with the other one reached out to Sarah, demanding, Muffin. She quickly broke up a few pieces onto a plate and set it before him. This got the boy's attention. He began a low crooning, straining his head toward the plate. My husband took up a bit and pressed it to the child's lips, quieting him momentarily. How old is he now? He asked Sarah. He's 7, she said. He ran his hand through the boy's wild red hair. Doesn't anyone ever comb his hair? He said. He won't stand for it. My husband looked into Walter's mad face, feeding him another bit of muffin to keep his attention. No, he said approvingly. Why should he? Walter's eyes opened wide. He brought his face close to his father's, swallowed the last bite, and shouted, poo-poo, poo-poo, at the top of his lungs. Sarah jumped away from the sideboard, grabbed the horrid creature by one arm, and dragged him toward the doors. He have to go out, she said. When the doors were open, he scurried across the bricks into the azaleas and squatted down in the dirt. A charming child, I observed. Sarah closed the doors and resumed her post at the sideboard. More coffee, I said. My husband looked abashed. It delighted me to see him trying to make his dull brain work over the problem presented by this monster he has brought among us. So he can speak, he said. Delphine taught him that. Can he say anything else? Maybe Delphine understands him sometime. But you don't? Sarah studied his face for a moment without speaking. Then she said, Delphine say he don't hear. He's deaf, my husband said softly, as if a deep revelation had just come to him. Then tersely, I shall send for Dr. Landry today. Yep. So I think we'll stop right there. I do want to go on, but that'll be another 3 or 4 pages, and I'm getting sleepy myself too. But yeah, we'll pick it up tomorrow and stuff about this baby. He done found out that this child, he probably got more than one. He's sleeping with multiple slave women and stuff. So he got some children and stuff, and this one right here, he keep him in the house. He keep this baby right here in the house. And the wife know, Mrs. know, that that's his baby and stuff, and she can't stand it. She can't stand that child. And now he find out that the little boy is dead. The little boy can't hear and stuff. I'm finna get the doctor to see him and stuff. Just, these folks done fucked our minds up and stuff. They have. What am I looking for? I'm going to mark this page right here. And we're going to start right here tomorrow. Oh, yes, y'all. And I thank y'all so much for being here. And this is another book. I think this is number 7 or number 8 one. But we doing good. And, you know, just learning our history. And I really appreciate your presence and your patience for this. Because I know, you know, it take a lot. It take more than it should to sit here and listen to these things. And then especially when you have more than one channel that you go to and stuff, but we just need to take it and see it for the benefit that it is, the greatness that our channels are, whatever it is, not only mine, but all of our channels and stuff, you know. And as much as that Nielsen rating said that we spend 10 hours a day watching TV, Black Americans do. Yeah, we spent, that's what Dr. George Fraser, was it Walter White? Someone said that, mentioned that and stuff. And if we're going to spend that much time on some entertainment or something, let's learn about us. Let's let this be the entertainment. The entertainment we need. This knowledge, these facts right here and stuff. And, you know, I know, right? But I thank y'all for being here so much. And just process this. Let's process this right here too. Because, you know, we know that it wasn't these same white people here that personally was there, because we wasn't even there during these times. We was not physically there. However, I will say that Anthony Browder, our brother from the west side of Chicago, you know, he's an archaeological excavator. And he said that geneticists discovered that we were here 290,000 years before white people even came on the scene. They like got here this morning. They like got here this morning, done stole everything. And cooked up a whole 7-course meal and a 7-course dessert. And so he said that geneticists also found out that we have 30,000 years of DNA, body DNA. So white folks got to have, you know, some of that DNA from their ancestors too. If we got some of the DNA in the DNA memory, body memory, DNA memory, then they got some too. Black America, they do. It just don't go away. It ain't that easy. It just don't go away. Yep, and with that right there, you know, yeah, we're gonna process this right here. And you already know, keep some gratitude and a song in your heart. Always stay grateful. Because, honey, we woke now. Don't let nobody sway you and put you back to sleep. Don't be lulled back to sleep. Now is not the time to just let go of everything that you awaken to. Whatever, however small it is, don't let go of it. It's going to grow. Just put your time, your effort, and your sincerity, your efforts and your sincerity into it, and it's going to grow. Yeah, this is the time and stuff. This is the time, and it ain't got to be difficult. We ain't got to make this hard. We do not have to make this hard. I love you too. Yep, I love all of y'all. Peace and power to the people. And I love y'all to life and afterlife. This is bigger than us. This is bigger than just here. You know, we are the greatest creator of our reality.